Tell us your name and about your project.
So my name is Cole Stovall, and I'm working with Arthur Eddington. Our plan is to prove Einstein's theory of general relativity to be true with the help of a big solar eclipse coming up. We plan to take pictures of the stars near the sun before and during the massive 6-minute solar eclipse that's going to happen soon on the island of Principe in West Africa. So at the time, Newton's laws were generally accepted to be true, but Eddington and Einstein were convinced otherwise, and Eddington actually is trying to prove Einstein's theory of relativity to be true.
What were you guys trying to do or find?
So Mr. Eddington, Sir Arthur Eddington, believes Einstein and his experiment, and he thinks that there's a way to prove him right. If we can observe distant stars' position during a solar eclipse compared to the position after the solar eclipse, and see that the positions are different, we can prove that light bends around large objects due to massive gravity. This would prove Einstein's general theory of relativity to be true.
Where did the project or experiment occur?
So we have two experimental groups set up in two different locations, kind of for insurance. Our first primary location is on the small island of Principe, west of Africa. And the second experimental group is set up in Sobral, Brazil, just in case the location in Principe was cloudy. And I'll be helping Eddington take the photographs in Principe.
What other significant events were happening at that time around the world?
So in 1919, many important events were taking place around the world. World War I had just ended, and the whole world is in a state of reconstruction and recovery. In January of that year, the Versailles Peace Conference was held to formally end World War I. And in the States, over 185,000 people died after a huge influenza outbreak. In Germany, the Fascist Party was formed with Benito Mussolini leading them to power, as well as the Nazi Party. They were gaining power in Germany, which we all know would inevitably lead to the Second World War. Also, the 18th Amendment in the States was implemented, which prohibited the sale and distribution of alcohol in the Prohibition era.
Who else was involved in the project?
So myself and Sir Arthur Eddington, of course, as well as Sir Frank Watson Dyson. He was the man who came up with the idea to actually take the pictures of the edge of the sun during a solar eclipse. Eddington also had help from his colleagues and fellow astronomers, of course. And you could also argue that Einstein helped indirectly because without his theory of relativity, Eddington, he would have no reason to conduct this experiment.
What was your role in this project?
So my role personally was to be the photographer. I was the one handling the camera. I was responsible for taking pictures of the solar eclipse during totality, where the moon completely covers the sun. I was also in charge of setting up the telescope and the camera in the right position before the eclipse started. We only had 6 minutes to make sure to get the best pictures possible. With my pictures of the sun during the eclipse, we will be able to determine if the light coming from the stars behind the sun is being bent around the sun, just like Einstein's theory states.
What impact did your project have on the physics world?
This project was huge. It was one of the most important discoveries in the physics world at this time. With this experiment, we were able to prove Einstein's theory of relativity more than just mathematically, but with direct observation. Right in a time when most of the physics world highly doubted his theory, because, like we said before, Newton's laws were law, and everyone accepted them to be true. So this really made Einstein, as well as Eddington, a huge celebrity overnight, really.
Did Arthur Eddington go on to do anything else?
Well, later in life, he was a professor at Cambridge, and he had a dispute with a student who had stated that black holes do exist, but at the time there were really no evidence to state that they do, and it was all mathematical, just like Einstein's theory was. But Eddington, being the man he was, he disputed that. But other than that, small story, Eddington really isn't credited with any more major discoveries in the physics world.